Welcome to Benjamin Recaps. Today, we're diving into the classic movie Papillon. Join me as I take you through the incredible journey of Henri Charriere and his fight for freedom from the penal colony on Devil's Island. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. The film's story starts in Paris. We get to know a person named Papillon who used to steal a safe and can indeed open the safe very professionally and steal what is inside it. Then he flees the scene through the window. He goes to a party after completing the robbery. He walks into a room full of people gambling and drinking alcoholic beverages. He was one of the people present who turned out to be the gang's leader. And he informs Papillon that he wishes to introduce him to someone. Indeed, Papillon witnesses a person being bound and beaten. He informs Papillon that this individual is a police officer and that he has ordered his men to kill him because he is a spy. Then he inquires of Papillon as to what he has brought him today. Papillon pulls out a slew of diamonds and hands them to him. The gang leader threatens him with death if he discovers that he has taken some of the diamonds, and he assures him that he did not steal anything. Then Papillon participates in the process. Meanwhile, he goes to see his magic-skilled girlfriend, Nanette. He presents her with a diamond necklace, as well as diamonds stolen from the gang boss. Unfortunately, they are being watched by someone who works for the gang boss. Then he goes to celebrate the robbery's success with his girlfriend. The next day, Papillon is arrested for the murder of a police officer by a gang boss. He informs them that he did not murder him. Despite all of his justifications, they did not believe him and arrested him. Papillon is sentenced to life in prison for the murder of the cop. The gang's leader orchestrated everything because he knew Papillon had stolen the diamonds. Nanette pays him a visit in prison, and he tells her that he is considering fleeing to exact revenge on the gang leader and his men. In the meantime, Papillon meets Juliet. He tells Papillon that if he wants to flee, he needs a lot of money, and there was a man named Louis Dega who was imprisoned on charges of file forgery. He informs him that all of the prisoners want to kill this person in order to obtain the money he possesses. The prisoners are then taken to be examined by a doctor before being transferred to a French prison. And this is one of the world's most dangerous prisons. Massive ships transport the prisoners. Papillon observes Louis and then approaches him. He tells him that there are many prisoners who want to kill him and that he can protect him. But it won't be free because he needs money to escape. But Louis disagrees, telling him that he does not need protection because the police are looking after him. Juliet informs Papillon that he wishes to flee with him and requests that they work together to do so. He tells him, however, that he does not want to involve him in the escape process because if their escape is discovered, they will be hurt, and he does not want anyone to be harmed as a result of him. All the prisoners are asleep at night, and someone killed another prisoner because he was wealthy and had hidden the money with him. Louis becomes concerned when he learns of this, especially when he learns that the police did not intervene because the killer bribed the police officer. Louis goes to see Papillon and tells him that he accepts the previous offer he made to him, which was that Papillon would protect him in exchange for money. We see the killer go to kill Louis at night, but Papillon intervenes and saves him at the last moment. And there was a heated argument between Papillon and the murderer. As a result, the murderer was admitted to the hospital. A prison officer orders the torture of Papillon. The officer beats and tortures him. Meanwhile, they arrive at a port and unload the prisoners. Juliet cuts himself to avoid being taken to the hospital and attempts to flee. The remaining prisoners are then transported to prison. The prison is extremely complicated, and escaping is nearly impossible. The prison warden greets the inmates and informs them that he is aware that the majority of the inmates are considering escaping. And he tells them that if anyone attempts to flee, he will be pleased because he will kill him. He tells them that if they succeed in escaping from prison, they will die of hunger in the forest, and if they try to escape by sea, sharks will eat them. He tells them to forget about breaking out of this prison. Then Papillon and Louis go to one of the inmates who was assigning tasks to the inmates. They ask him to take over their duties in the hospital, but he tells them that it will be very expensive. Papillon requests that Louis bring the money. They are indeed assigned tasks. However, one of the officers recognizes Louis because his brother-in-law was imprisoned as a result of the forged files that Louis was creating. The officer despised Louis so much that he sent them to Route Zero. This road was riddled with mines. Prisoners in this facility put in long hours. Then they meet a prisoner named who used to work in the Navy. While they were working, they noticed a chariot driver who needed assistance. The officer directed Papillon to assist this individual. He did help him, and while he was doing so, he asked him to assist him in his escape and to provide him with a boat. In exchange, he would give him money. This individual concurs. Following that, the prisoners return to the prison, and the prison warden invites them to a meeting to witness the execution of one of the inmates who attempted to escape. Unfortunately, Jules is the one who will be executed. He is indeed being executed in front of all the prisoners. The warden orders that the body be buried in the woods by Papillon and Louis. They are on their way to bury the body. Louis was unaccustomed to the sight of blood and corpses, and as a result, he was unable to hold the corpse. One of the officers hits him, but Papillon steps in and hits the officer, who then flees. He threw himself into the sea when he was cornered by the police. He kept swimming until he reached the chariot driver. Unfortunately, he was betrayed and handed over to the police, and he told him that he apologized for his betrayal because the police gave him double the money. Papillon is returned to prison, where the prison warden greets him and informs him that the officer you struck did not die, and thus you will not be executed. He informs him that his punishment will be 2 years in solitary confinement. The officer who was beaten by Papillon enters Papillon's cell and severely beats him in order to exact revenge. Papillon continues to provoke the officer, who issues an order preventing Papillon from eating. For a long time, Papillon has been forbidden from eating, which is beginning to affect his physical ability. Papillon finds a coconut in the water one day. He discovers a letter from Louis, in which he apologizes for what happened to him. The coconut was given to Papillon several times before the officers discovered it and killed the bribed cop, who was giving the coconut to Papillon in exchange for the money Louis gave him. The warden interrogates Papillon and requests that he tell him who was sending him coconuts, but he refuses. The warden of the prison punishes him and sentences him to 2 more years in prison, ordering his men to turn off the light on the Papillon. He didn't see the light for 2 years. He is taken to the hospital 2 years later. Louis, who used to work for the warden, visits Papillon in the hospital and informs him that his wife has filed for divorce and married his lawyer. He informs him that he has good news for him in the form of a movie that will be shown on Sunday. Many military leaders are expected to attend. There will be a lot of fuss, the prison guards will be busy, and this is his chance to escape. Charriere informs Papillon that he has arranged for a boat from one of his friends and that his friend wants half the money. Papillon takes Louis' last money and gives it to him. At night, they begin to carry out the plan by putting sugar in the guards' drinks, which puts them to sleep. The guards pass out after drinking the drink. Papillon pulls out his iron and beats the guards in front of him. The 3 can then escape from prison, along with one of the people who assisted them. However, Louis breaks his leg during the escape, and they flee into the woods. They eventually made it to the boat and escaped. The boat was too small to accommodate that many people. Charriere, on the other hand, was determined to kill Louis due to his broken leg. Papillon, on the other hand, refuses and quarrels with him. Louis murders Sasha. They eventually arrived at an island. One of the nuns on this island requested that they return to prison in order for God to forgive their sins. Papillon visits Louis to see how he is. Unfortunately, they were arrested again because one of the nuns had informed the police about their location. In addition, the police killed the person who was with them. Because Papillon attempted to flee for the second time, he was sentenced to 5 years in solitary confinement. After 5 years, he is transferred to Devil's Island. There were no guards on this island because all of the prisoners were insane. When Louis arrived, he told him that he had been in this prison for 5 years. Papillon was still considering fleeing. He decides to flee, but Louis does not abandon him and tells him that he is at ease in this location. He says goodbye to Papillon, who was able to flee and reach safety. Following that, we see Papillon, who has grown old and has decided to document his life. He writes and publishes his own story. The film's plot is based on the true story of a man named Papillon, who was one of the people who could not escape from Devil's Island and died in prison. The film comes to an end here. That's a wrap for my recap of Papillon, the heart-wrenching tale of Henri Charriere and his quest for freedom. From his false conviction to his daring escape attempts, I hope my recap has given you a new perspective on this classic film and sparked your interest to watch it again. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest movie recaps on my channel, Benjamin Recaps. I have plenty of exciting content planned for the future, so stay tuned. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.